My name's Jim Leatch. I'm a vocational deacon at St. Olave's Church in Toronto. Today, I'd like to explore with you the life and education of King Charles III. As the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom, Canada, and his other realms and territories, his journey from prince to king is a story of dedication, resilience, and a lifelong commitment to public service. Over the next few minutes, we'll delve into his remarkable life. My talk will focus on the educational path that shaped the man sitting on our nation's throne today. King Charles III was born Charles Philip Arthur George on November the 14th, 1948, at Buckingham Palace in London. He's the eldest son of Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and His late Royal Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh.
This is Movie Tone. Lionel Gamlin reporting. Mr. John Clare, Registrar of Westminster South, played his official part in the royal christening early on the historic day. He is seen here at Caxton Hall after his visit to Buckingham Palace to register the royal baby. The records of the birth followed the customary procedure. Here are the details and signatures concerning Prince Charles of Edinburgh. In the afternoon, there was quite a crowd at the palace. Though the ceremony was to be a private affair, there was a chance of seeing some of the 50 people attending. The Archbishop of Canterbury, of course, was one of them. Only a fleeting glimpse could be obtained of other arrivals, members of the royal family and sponsors of the baby. Londoners at the palace gates were on tiptoe to see them all drive in. As ever, there was a special, heartfelt ovation for Queen Mary. The christening was to take place in the music room, and as I've already said, it was private, but filming was allowed in the palace before and after the ceremony. Dr. Fisher, wearing cope and mitre, posed with his assisting clergy. Here is the first picture of His Royal Highness Prince Charles of Edinburgh, second in the line of succession, just 4 weeks old. Those present included Lady Brabourne, the baby's first cousin once removed, next to Prince Philip and the King, then Mr. David Bowes-Lyon, the Queen's brother, and the Earl of Athlone, the Dowager Marchioness of Milford Haven, Princess Elizabeth with her little son, Queen Mary and Princess Margaret. Queen Mary with her great-grandson. The fact that the King was well enough to attend the ceremony was very good news indeed. In addition, everyone will share his natural delight in this happy family occasion. For the Queen, too, it must have been a day of the greatest happiness. Naturally, many groups were taken. They will be treasured in the royal family album, as indeed they will be remembered by all of us. 4 generations, as this one may be called, is one of the most memorable. For Prince Charles's father and mother, it was a day of pride as well as joy. Incidentally, it's reported that the baby prince behaved with exemplary fortitude throughout the christening. As the pictures clearly show, he paid no heed to the filming, remaining perfectly calm while the cameras produced the records we've all been so anxious to see. And when the filming was over, along came Nurse Rowe to put His Royal Highness to bed.
Being first in line to the throne from birth, Charles was destined for a life of public duty. Growing up in the public eye, Charles faced the dual challenge of a rigorous upbringing with the expectations of the people of the United Kingdom and the countries of the Commonwealth. His early years were spent at Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, where he was exposed to the rich history and traditions of the monarchy. Charles's education was meticulously planned, primarily by his father, the late Duke of Edinburgh, reflecting his royal status and the evolving attitudes towards children's education in the 1950s. In 1953, when Charles turned 5, a governess named Catherine Peebles was appointed to oversee his education at the palace. This homeschooling was conducted for 3 years. In November 1956, when he was 8, Prince Charles attended classes at Hill House School in West London. This marked a departure from royal tradition, as previous generations of royals were educated privately by tutors. His attendance at a regular school signaled a more progressive approach to education. Unfortunately, things didn't go well for Prince Charles at Hill House, and in September 1957, he moved to Cheam School in Berkshire.
Proudly wearing this school cap, an 8-year-old boy will shortly begin his first term at Cheam School in Hampshire. There, the joint headmasters, Mr. Beck and Mr. Wheeler, will shape the democratic education of the boy who was born to be king. So Prince Charles will start his innings at a prep school, following in his father's footsteps, both at the school and on the playing field. Over 300 years old, Cheam School moved from Surrey in 1934, and Prince Charles may well occupy the well-worn desk once used by his father. In the modern kitchen, good plain food is prepared for the pupils. There'll be between 80 and 90 boarders to sit down in the dining room. Rising at 7:15 a.m., the new boy will soon learn the order of the bathroom, first come, first served. About 10 boys share each dormitory. There's a basket each for clothes, and by the way, the beds have no springs.
Founded in 1645, Cheam is a preparatory school with a reputation for academic rigor. The Duke of Edinburgh himself attended Cheam when he was a boy. Charles's time at Cheam was pivotal, as it was here that he developed a love for learning, and in particular, a keen interest in art, history, and geography. After 5 years at Cheam in 1962, Charles took another significant step in his education when he began to attend Gordonstoun, a boarding school in Moray, Scotland, founded by the German educator Kurt Hahn. Gordonstoun, located about 80 kilometers northwest of Inverness and about 2 kilometers from the sea, is known for its emphasis on character building, physical fitness, and outdoor activities.
Now Jeff Shirley reporting on Gordonstoun as Prince Charles arrives with his father, the school's most famous old boy. And first a welcome from the headmaster, Mr. Robert Chew. And then the school warden. Remember how you felt when you started? A glance up at the window of Prince Philip's old study before going in for his first look round. Here's a typical dormitory, accent on comfort without luxury, and that goes for the studies as well. As you might expect, the library is well stocked. And just as up to date, the science laboratories. Games are an important part of the curriculum. They're essential for bringing out qualities of leadership and team spirit. The boys take part in many outward bound activities, and as the school's near the Murray Firth, there's plenty of chance for sailing. Prince Charles is now a member of Windmill Lodge House. Mr. Robert Whitby is the housemaster, and Dougal Mackenzie, head of the house. Peter Pace, the school's head boy, also had a welcome for the young prince, who at 13 is just beginning the most important phase of his education. And the very best of luck to him.
the school's challenging environment was chosen intentionally to develop resilience and self-discipline. While Charles faced difficulties adapting to the harsh conditions, he later acknowledged the valuable life lessons he learned at Gordonstoun. In 1966, during his studies at Gordonstoun, Charles spent 2 terms as a teaching assistant at Geelong Grammar School's Timbertop campus in Victoria, Australia.
It was his time at an Australian school that King Charles III says was by far the best part of his entire education. But the 17-year-old's princely title at the time didn't stop his classmates getting stuck into him.
Timbertop Mountain, Victoria, site of Geelong Grammar's rugged outdoor school. And from early next year, it will have a new student, Prince Charles.
He was only 17, so we treated him pretty much as one of us.
He amazed me in the sense that he was able to adapt in time so well to very different circumstances.
Cutting firewood, running all the cross countries. He was required to do everything that we did.
My God, he was good for the character.
An hour's drive from Melbourne on lush green grounds stand the red brick buildings of the Aussie school that helped shape King Charles III. Geelong Grammar is one of Australia's most historic schools. The likes of Rupert Murdoch and Kerry Packer were both students here. King Charles arrived in 1966, spending his time at the school's high country campus, Timbertop. But it's an experience the King has remembered fondly, even sharing that his regal status didn't spare him some friendly ribbing from his Aussie classmates. King Charles recalling some of that schoolyard banter at a London event in 2011.
I've been through my fair share of being called a pommy bastard, I can assure you.
Jonathan Southey, or Johnny, was there in 1966 when Charles arrived at Timbertop.
We treated him pretty much as one of us, and we all took the piss out of each other. Australia's a great nation of piss takers, and I've always been of the view that if somebody is taking the piss out of you, it generally means they like you.
As Johnny read of the proclamation of his former classmate this week, he recalled that the then Prince shirked none of the duties expected of a Timbertop student.
You can imagine how many dirty bowls and plates there were left after 120 unruly and starving boys had eaten. A handful of us on a rotational basis were required to clean up all the crockery and cutlery and what have you, and Charles took his turn at that.
Most students at Timbertop in those days were about 14 years old. Charles was 17, and Stuart McGregor was selected from the older year level to be a companion for the future king.
The day came when the cars drove up the drive. The headmaster and the head of Timbertop greeted Prince Charles as he was, and I was part of that group.
The pair would spend hours together as roommates and became lifelong friends.
Our friendship developed and grew and remains in place today. So I think he is an exceptional person with exceptional skills, and we will now see those exhibited in the interests of the Commonwealth and of Australia.
Among those skills, according to Johnny, is discretion. And there's a story here. Johnny, what happened the night Prince Charles caught you smoking in the boiler room?
I was in the boiler room one night having one of these cigarettes, and Prince Charles walked in. He looked dismayed and said, Southey, you should know better than that. And he confiscated the cigarette and off he went. And I was about to light up another one when, quite predictably enough, God, I must have been so stupid, I still am. He came back as I was about to light up another one and said, Southey, I better have the rest of the pack.
Charles was effectively a prefect and should have reported Johnny to the masters, but it would appear that even back then, Charles's royal nature was one of mercy.
Nothing happened, so I worked out that Charles spared me, and to have been spared by the King of England fills me full of gratitude, and that's a sign of the compassion that I expect him to bring to his reign.
This experience broadened his horizons exposing him to different cultures and perspectives. During his time in Australia, he developed his leadership skills and deepened his understanding of global issues. After Geelong, the Prince returned to graduate from Gordonstoun in 1967. While it was traditional for royals to enter military service after school, Charles instead headed to university in 1967. He attended Trinity College, Cambridge, where he studied archaeology and anthropology in his first year, later switching to history. His time at Cambridge was marked by academic rigor and intellectual exploration. Charles was deeply engaged in his studies and developed a profound appreciation for the arts, architecture, and history. In addition to his academic pursuits, Charles was an active participant in university life. He joined various clubs and societies, further expanding his social and cultural horizons. For example, Charles pursued acting, which turned out to be a passion of his, joining Trinity's famous Dryden Society. In 1970, Charles became the first heir to the British throne to earn a university degree. His experiences at Cambridge helped shape his worldview and provided a solid foundation for his future role as a global leader. In 1969, while still a student, Charles became the Prince of Wales in an investiture at Carnarvon Castle in Wales.
Bless the Prince of Wales, they sang. Those mighty Welsh voices bore the message of the people who were to welcome Prince Charles as their own. This young man was ready to take up his royal office to serve the proud race who opened their hearts to both him and his mother, the Queen, on this historic July the 1st. The Grey Fortress was a place of rejoicing on this day. While the crowds cheered their monarch, the young prince, with a dignity and assurance belying his years, followed the centuries-old pattern of ceremony and went to the Chamberlain Tower to await the Queen's command. Her Majesty and the Duke of Edinburgh, the Queen and her consort were regal figures as they moved towards the place where the joyous deed of investiture would take place. But apparent, even in the formality of the occasion, was the pride they held for their son. It was an emotion that all present felt and warmed to. A disc of Welsh slate, impressive in its simplicity, furnished with 3 thrones. This was the stage where Wales would receive its own prince. With timeless ceremony, the Queen commanded the Earl Marshal to direct Garter, King of Arms, to summon the prince from the Chamberlain Tower. With his mother, father, sister, grandmother, and indeed all inside Carnarvon Castle, willing courage to the young man born a prince, His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales appeared. Upright and youthful, he trod the path of history. What a scene it was. The ancient castle providing an unequalled backcloth to an occasion of pomp and splendor, which was yet also one of simplicity. A modern prince in a medieval castle kneeling before the Queen, who was fulfilling a promise and giving Wales a worthy prince for its own, in a manner set down centuries ago. As the Secretary of State for Wales read the text of the letters patent in Welsh, Her Majesty invested the prince with the sword, the coronet,
Modrwy air ar ei vis.
the gold ring,
A hefyd drwy dros glwyddo gwiale nawr i'w law.
the gold rod,
Fel y bo iddo newyddiannol
and the mantle. In giving to the prince these insignias of office, the Queen could not conceal the gentle touch of a mother, despite the formal text of the letters patent, which proclaimed that Charles, Philip, Arthur, George may have the name, style, title, state, dignity and honor of the Principality of Wales and Earldom of Chester. The sword about his waist, the coronet upon his head, the gold rod in his hand, and the silk velvet ermine mantle upon his shoulders, he bore with great fortitude the emotion that the coming moments brought.
I, Charles, Prince of Wales, do become your liege man of life and limb, and of earthly worship, and faith and truth I will bear unto thee, to live and die against all manner of folks.
And so Her Majesty and the Duke of Edinburgh took their son, the Prince of Wales, to greet and be greeted by the people of the great race he had sworn to serve and protect. The crowds in the square at Carnarvon had gladly awarded their prince the warmth of a welcome which for all time would stand to show the affection in which he is held by the people of Wales. Gone was the formality of the investiture ceremony. The ordeal, which it surely was for the prince, was over. All wanted to see him. He was happy to be seen. The cheers, the applause, the music, all were an inspiration to the Prince and the Queen in this hour of dedication. With the fanfares and the voices of thousands ringing through the narrow streets of this North Wales town, the Prince of Wales left the castle, in which had been added yet another chapter of history in the great volumes which speak of the land he had sworn to serve.
In keeping with royal tradition, Charles underwent military training after completing his university education. In 1971, he attended the Royal Air Force College Cranwell and later the Royal Naval College Britannia in Dartmouth, Devon.
At Cranwell, 32 graduates from the RAF's No. 1 graduate entry course went on parade. Lined up with other young officers in the front row, Prince Charles, codename Golden Eagle. He was about to receive his wings and so follow in his father's footsteps. The presentation was carried out by Air Chief Marshal Sir Dennis Spotswood. Sir Dennis spoke of Prince Charles' spirit, enthusiasm and undoubted aptitude. According to his official Cranwell report, the Prince would make an excellent jet fighter pilot. Later, Golden Eagle joined a very proud Kitty Hawk. That's the official RAF codename for Prince Philip. Finally, RAF jets in C formation flew past, bringing to an end the Prince's 5-month training course at Cranwell.
His military and naval service included time spent in the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force, where he gained practical leadership experience and a deep appreciation for the armed forces.
At the Britannia Royal Naval College, the start of a new training course for Prince Charles, who arrived wearing the uniform of an acting sub-lieutenant. The college staff were present to greet the new student, and the naval cadets put on a parade in his honor. After talking with Admiral Sir Horace Law, Commander-in-Chief, Naval Home Command, Prince Charles entered the college building to be shown around. Part of the Prince's 6-week study course will be spent in this electronics laboratory. There's also a language laboratory, fully equipped with the most modern teaching devices. Later, as a watchkeeping officer aboard HMS Norfolk, Prince Charles will put the navigation theory he learns here into practice. Other subjects included in the course are administration, management and sea operations. During the course, Prince Charles will rise at 6 a.m. and spend a full day studying with his classmates until pipe down at 10:30 p.m. It promises to be a busy 6 weeks for the new Royal Naval Officer.
One of the things he undertook was parachute training. And when I went through university, was in an officer training program with the Canadian Army, and I undertook the 3-week basic parachuting course, which at that time was conducted at CFB Edmonton in Alberta. So I know something of the parachute training that the King underwent.
Prince Charles getting some last-minute instruction before his parachute jump over the channel. This film, taken at Abingdon Parachute School, and film of the actual jump, was taken especially for official Ministry of Defence records. A few words of cheer from senior officers, and the Prince boards an Andover transport of 46 Squadron. His jump certainly wasn't compulsory, but it's a normal part of the course for his fellow cadets at the RAF College Cranwell, and the Prince insisted on making it. And there he goes from about 1,200 feet. A safe but rather soggy landing, and in no time the Royal Marines are there to pull him out. His verdict? A great thrill, but apparently the water was colder than he expected. So the Prince, having changed into blazer and slacks, headed for the traditional glass of red wine.
Part of this helped to build relationships between the Prince, now the King, with British and Commonwealth military forces. For example, in Canada, he's the Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Regiment of Canada, stationed here in Toronto, and of the Black Watch, the Royal Highland Regiment of Canada, which is based in Montreal. Charles's military training was not just about developing strategic and tactical skills, but also a testament to his commitment to serving his country in various capacities. His time in the military instilled in him a sense of duty, discipline, and a profound respect for those who serve in uniform. Throughout his life, Charles has been an ardent advocate for numerous causes, often championing issues long before they gained widespread attention. In 1976, for example, he founded the Prince's Trust, a charitable organization dedicated to helping young people overcome challenges and achieve their potential. The Trust has since transformed countless lives, providing support and opportunity to those in need. Charles has also been a vocal advocate for environmental conservation. His passion for sustainability and organic farming led to the creation of Duchy Originals, a brand that promotes organic food and sustainable farming practices. He has consistently used his platform to raise awareness about climate change, renewable energy, and conservation. King Charles III deeply appreciates the arts, culture, and spirituality. He's a patron of numerous arts organizations, and he has a profound interest in classical music, architecture, and traditional craftsmanship. His efforts to preserve historical buildings and promote architectural excellence reflect his commitment to cultural heritage. King Charles currently is the patron of 39 choirs, orchestras, opera companies, and music schools in the United Kingdom, including the Royal Opera House Covent Garden Orchestra and Chorus, the Royal College of Organists, and the Bach Choir of London. The King enjoys painting. He learned to paint under the influences of Robert Waddell, an art teacher at Gordonston. And later, he was taught by British artists Edward Seago and John Napper. Additionally, he had access as a young person, and of course currently, to artworks from the family's Royal Collection Trust. Charles has been painting primarily landscapes for nearly 50 years. Our opening slide in today's presentation shows Prince Charles painting a watercolor of Balmoral Castle in 2001. 100 limited edition prints were made of this painting. In 2022, one of these prints was auctioned by Bonhams in Scotland. Before the auction, it was estimated that it would sell for around $675 US. In fact, it sold for $6,500 US, plus the auction house's premium on top of that. In religious matters, Charles has shown a keen interest in interfaith dialogue and promoting religious tolerance. He's engaged with leaders from various religious communities, emphasizing the importance of mutual respect and understanding in an increasingly diverse world. King Charles III, like his mother before him, has religious and secular responsibilities. As defender of the faith and supreme governor of the Church of England, he will help lead his country's most prominent faith group. Also, like Queen Elizabeth II, the king plans to undertake his formal religious duties with authentic care and concern. In his first address to the Commonwealth, he spoke about how his faith has informed his approach to leadership. King Charles III's relationship to religion is distinct because he's spoken repeatedly about his desire to defend more than just the Church of England. According to The Guardian, in 1994, Charles triggered controversy when he said he would be defender of faith rather than defender of the faith, in a desire to reflect Britain's religious diversity. This is what the Prince at the time said: "I mind about the inclusion of other people's faiths and their freedom to worship in this country. And it's always seemed to me that while at the same time being defender of the faith, you can also be protector of faiths." This he said during an interview in 2015. In conclusion, the life and education of King Charles III exemplifies a journey marked by dedication, resilience, and a deep commitment to public service. From his early years as a young prince to his current role as king, Charles's experiences and education have shaped him into a thoughtful and compassionate leader. His advocacy for environmental sustainability, his support for young people, and his engagement with cultural and spiritual matters highlight his multifaceted approach to leadership.
Global warming, climate change, and the devastating loss of biodiversity are the greatest threats humanity
has ever faced.
We are in the midst of an ecological crisis.
The fact is that we are all responsible.
And it really doesn't matter how we apportion blame.
The problems surrounding conservation seem overwhelming.
One of the most basic problems is people.
You inevitably come up against human nature, obstinacy, and prejudice.
We're told that nature must be subdued and humbled, put in her place and abused.
Without ever stopping to consider, you can never have something for nothing.
The word ecology implies the relationship of an organism to its environment. And we are just as much an organism as any other animal
that is unfortunate enough to share this earth with us.
The natural world has bounds of balance, order, and harmony that set the limits to our ambitions.
When we exceed those limits, we will always end up sooner or later paying a heavy price.
We have made painful discoveries about where those limits are.
All of our actions have consequences.
In damaging our climate, we become the architects of our own destruction. While the planet can handle the scorching of the earth and the rising of the waters, the human race cannot.
We must forget the kind of short-term assumptions which dominate our day-to-day thinking.
Is it actually impossible to look 30 or 40
or even 100 years ahead?
We know exactly what needs to be done. We have the knowledge, the tools, and the money. We lack only the will.
Just as mankind had the power to push the world to the brink, so too do we have the power to bring it back into balance.
As our planet's life support system begins to fail,
and our very survival as a species is brought into question,
remember that our children and grandchildren will ask not what our generation said,
but what it did.
Let us give an answer then,
of which we can be proud. There is real hope, but we've just got to get our act together. And we've got to remember that the natural world is what sustains us.
As we reflect on his life, we can draw inspiration from his tireless efforts to positively impact society and the world. King Charles's story is a testament to the power of education, the importance of service, and the enduring legacy of the monarchy. Thank you.